Okay, so today we're going to continue on with some double array manipulation. And I gave the assignment, before I started recording anyway, of how to take this double array and change the diagonals, all of the diagonal values into a 1. So I want it to print out like this, a 1 in each of these positions going down the side here. So this is the code to print out the array, the double array. And so we can use something like this. We have to what I call walk through the arrays. We have to iterate through these arrays and look at specific values. So what do we know about the diagonal? What are the coordinates of this A here? 0, 0. They all go by 1. And this is 1, 1. And this is 2, 2. So the number goes up the same each time, right? So we can do that in a loop. That number goes the same. We can walk through every array. Yeah, I don't know why I keep having that wrong. And I like to call that the row. So we remember we do the rows first, and then we look at the columns. And that's the way you're going to be doing all of these double array kinds of things. We look at the row first. So the row at a particular position, I can look at the first element in the row the first time. That might be row 0, right? And I can set that to a 1. So what has to change to make this the index? This value has to go from what number to what number? 0 up to 4. So one way to do that is to have a variable that's a counter that's going to go up. So we could say our counter or our index, I like to use index, equals 0. A better one would be column equals 0. We're going to start at the 0 column. And for every line that we go down, every row that we go down, we need to increment that column, right? So each time I need to add 1 to this column. And so the column is going from 0, the next time it's going to be 1, the next time it's going to be 2, 3, etc. So we do that, and then I'm going to make this a method. So how do we define a method? We'll call it print double. How about that? And we need to tell it what we want to print. All right? So what do we pass into this to tell it what to print? So that it can work on anything. We want it to be able to work on any double array. An array, all right? So we'll call it whatever. What do we want to call it? Double array. All right? So the code for this is going to be similar to this, except that cells needs to be double array, right? And the rest is the same. All right, so that makes a nice little method, and so I can print out my cells before and after just by calling this method now. Print double, and we pass it what? Cells. All right, good. And then we can call this again at the end, so we can print it before and after and see what it looks like. No, it's in a method, it's not in a class. See the difference? All right. All right, so there we go. We've got 2 arrays here. The first one printed in the original, and this is what did afterwards, right? So we've got these 1s going down here. Isn't that great? So now I want you to try and think about converting this column. What column would this be? 3, very good. We start at 0, 1, 2, 3. Convert all of the column 3 letters to a 0, going down. All right? Does everybody see what I'm doing there? So the D is going to be converted to a 0, and the I is going to be a 0, and the N is going to be a 0, etc.
Do you want to keep the 1?
Yeah, you can leave the 1s. We're going to keep adding to the cells.
Okay.
All right, so how do we do that? So I'll let you do that. All right, so let's figure out how to do this. We want to convert all of the columns, all of the third column down into zeros. All right. So again, we need to loop through our array. So we can do a cells.each, and we want to go through each row. And what does row have in it? What does row contain? And I'll give you a hint, it's not a string. A single array of strings or of elements, all right? So since it's an array, I can do array type stuff with it. And if I want to do the third row, how do I access the third column, how do I access the third column in this row? Very good. So I just say sub3. I set that to the value 0, and I'm done. All right, let's print out our double array again. Run it again. And there we go. We need a puts in here too. Actually, to make this easier, I'll put a puts inside of my double array method, and then I don't have to do it all the time. Look at that. So now I've got zeros going all the way down, and ones going all in the diagonal point here. See how that works? Isn't that great? All right, any questions on that so far? Pardon me? I lost you? Okay. So in the cells, what does cells have in it? What is the type of value of cells? It's actually an array, a single array, that contains arrays. So every element in that is an array. So I'm going to walk through all of my outer elements, which is each one of these. The first one is an entire array by itself. So cell sub 0 gives me all of this entire array, which is in an each loop given to me by this row here. So row is what type of data? It's an array, and if I index that array, what am I going to get back? If I say row sub 1, what is a string? I'm going to get the element. I'm finally getting to the final element there. So here I'm just saying for every third element in this row, I want to replace that with a 0. And then the next time I'm going to go get the next row and set row sub 3 to be a 0. And then the next row, set it to row 3 sub 0. Does that help? Still lost. Watch the video. All right. Any other questions? I'm not sure how else to say that. So now I've...
Honestly, I got lost when you created the method and you did something while I was typing it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so your method here, let's talk about my print double method. This is just a method that's going to take an argument, a single argument, which happens to be I'm going to pass it the cells all the time. So when I call it, cells is going to be going into this double array argument. So I'm going to walk through my double array, and this is the same code that I had before. This used to be called cells, right? I didn't change that code at all. So I'm going to walk through whatever array gets passed into me, for each row, and I'm going to join my row with spaces because row is also what type of data? An array, okay? So I'm going to join it, and that just spits out every row one at a time like this. One, dunk, 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 for whatever double array I pass into this method. So then I'm just using that down here. I call my method print double. I pass it my cells array, and that does all of this code, prints it out to the screen. And then I did my diagonals and I printed it again. So I'm just trying to dry up my code by having a method here. Okay? Still not working right? All right, so we'll do one more thing. Let's convert all of a particular row. Let's pick a row now that would look good. Let's pick row 4, and I want to convert that all to I don't know, 2s. How about 2s? Right. So I want you to do all of the row across every element in this row 4 to 2s. All right, so similar kind of a construct. Well, I want you to go through and do that.
This is starting to look a lot.
Let's continue on. Okay, so how do we do this? Let's do the same kind of a construct. We can say cells.each do, and we want to look at, well, do we have to do that? If we're only going to do one row, how do I get the 4th row? Okay, I could do cells sub 4. What is that value? What?
It's the last row.
And it contains an array. Contains an array, right? So it's an array. I can do array type stuff with it. I can say .each do, and what would I call this since I'm looking at only one row? Column. Okay, I want you to get used to using columns and rows. So now all I have to do is set I don't think this is going to work. I didn't try it actually. To 2. And we'll see, this is not going to work. So I have to, the column gives me the value, but I can't assign that value back into it, right? So I have to look up, how do I look up that particular column in that row? Right, it's going to be cell sub 4, sub 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Or the call, which is what I'm going to get here. Nope, I have a problem. That doesn't work either. All right, so these are good errors to have. Can't convert a string to an integer. I didn't actually do anything, did I? Can't convert, what happened here? Can't convert string to integer. So in my array equals, it says I can't convert that into that. So how might we debug this? All right, let's use some debugger stuff, right? So let's run this, debug it, and we've stopped here. So I get nothing back,
Never said call. Oh, wait, never mind. It says you
but I get
add a watch to it. Maybe.
all right, so let's use watches. These are all good stuff. So call is the letter U. So I can't index my cells by the letter U, right? That doesn't make sense. Right? That doesn't make sense.
So that should be a counter instead of
Should be a counter, right?
You could do index of, or I mean, yeah, index of.
Lots of ways. All right. So let's do it differently because I want to get you into a while loop instead. So while my cells sub 4, I want to do this. I need a loop. So while my column is 0, while my column is less than cell sub 4, how do I know how long my row is?
It is 5 long.
How do I know that though? I don't ever use constants if I can help it. The length, okay. All right. Well, I'm going to loop through my row here. And now I'm going to get a number. Call is now going to be a 1, 2, 3, or 0, 1, 2, 3. And now I can say cells sub 4 sub call. I'm going to set that to equal to 2. All right, that looks better. All right, so there we go. That's one way to do that. And the reason I want to get you into these while loops is that, let's say I want to find a letter, and we're out of time to let you try this on your own. Find, what do we have left in here? Find the Q, all right? Find the Q in the double array. How would I write code to find the Q? And by finding the Q, that means I want to get the row and the column position of where the Q is. I want to know that that should return me 3 and a 1, right? That's in the third row and the first column, counting from 0 again, remember? So if we do this, we have a row, and while my row is less than, how long is my double array? 5, I know, but that doesn't help me. I need to know variably how long my...
So we'll make a variable that equals 5.
It's not... Row is a number. No.
It's
I need to have something based on cells. No, that gives me the number of columns. I want to know how many rows do I have in my cells array. Nope. Nope. So this cells is what type of value? It's an array. And so each element, this is element 0, this is element 1, this is element 2, this is element 3, this is element 4. How do I know how many rows there are in this cells array? There you go. Cells.length, right? That tells me you didn't say that. You did not say that. Cells.length. All right, that tells me how many rows I have in my double array. And I'm going to increment my rows down here. Now I want to iterate through the columns. I want to look at the columns one at a time, right? So the first time through, I have a row. I want to say another while loop. Well, I have to set my column. So call, that's a JavaScript function. For I, there's a for loop, but it's not a for in. For in is JavaScript. Yeah, it's a different type. You can use a for loop, sure. I just don't teach them that well. I mean, because you guys know while loops, so I don't want to. So while I want to look at each column, how do I know how many columns I have in my call is a number? So call one dot length. What does that give you? No. You're just guessing now. What is the first element in my cells array?
Go up. We did it before.
Yeah, I know. All right, so cells.length gives me how many rows I have. How might I determine how many columns I have?
Cells sub 0 dot length.
There you go. Cell sub 0 gives me the first row, and that's an array, and then I can look at the length property of that element.
That's what I meant.
That's not what you said.
Well, I put
So
instead of
cells sub 0 dot length. All right, very good. So that lets me iterate across the columns. The outer loop goes down the rows, the inner loop goes across the columns, and now I can do something with that. How do I then check to see if that value is valid? So I need an if statement. If, and how do I look at that particular row and column element in my cells array?
Cells sub
There you-
calls sub
Okay, so the rows are first, and the column is second, right? So cell sub row sub column. That tells me I'm looking at each element as I'm going across. Then I go to the next row and I look at each column going across. And when I find that, if that is equal to the Q that I'm looking for, then I want to do something. So the easiest would be, let's just save my row and save my column. And when I get to the end of that, let's just print out my save row and column.
Gotta change rows to row
Thank you. Good eye. All right, let's see if this works first time out.
cell sub 0.
What did I do wrong?
Cell sub 0.
It's still running.
Infinite loop.
Infinite loop. What did I miss? I didn't increment something. Very good. That's a good start. So I'm incrementing my rows, but I'm never incrementing my columns. So my columns is staying at well, this would actually be 0 too. So I need to increment my columns inside my while loop. Just like we did incrementing them looking through the states array way last quarter, same kind of concept. There we go. So I get my column, my row is 3, and my column is 1. Is that right? 0, 1, 2, 3, and 0, 1. So it found it at the position 3, 1. All right, so I'll let you cogitate on that for a while. This is the type of construct that you're going to use the most in the file, in the final, sorry. Looking through, finding things, setting things, using while loops, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of this accessing a cell at a particular row and column, etc. All right, we're out of time.